Icon? The woman kills babies! Welcome to Super Saturday, where we kick off our training shoes and try to ignore the moronic design of the brand on our new hoodie. NANI? How did no one notice that? I'm Shifu Pain, and what do when you want to cover a subject that is not tangentially or adjacently relevant to the main brand of your channel, but you still want to really cover it anyway? You say, fuck it, it's my channel and I can do what I want. We've talked before about mythological characters or concepts and how politics is seeped into a mythological concept or story or character. Sometimes that topic is baked into the concept as a product of its day that is carried over into the modern day. But then you have those characters which were created to represent one thing, but have come to represent something else entirely in a new modern context. Enter Lilith, a character so important to the lore she's never even mentioned in the Bible. That's actually kind of a running theme, I think you'll find. So let's start with our baseline and establish just what we consider to be Lilith. So, what do we know? Or rather, what do people identify as Lilith? Lilith was the first wife of Adam, became the mother of demons, married Lucifer, is a succubus, aka sex demon, is apparently a vampire, kills babies, and is somehow, inexplicably, a feminist icon. Icon? The woman kills babies! You can probably already tell that there are a lot of dangling threads to go through with this character, and strap in, because there's going to be a whole lot more. Please, get comfortable now, because this is going to take a while. Let's start by going back to her first written mention and go from there. Well, first, let's go back to the beginning, with Genesis. Plot twist? With the inconsistency that gave room for a character like Lilith to exist. Genesis 1:27 states, "So God created humankind in his image. In the image of God he created them, male and female. He created them." Which implies that the two were created together at the same time. Then we jump to 2:27 to see it say that, "And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman and brought her to the man." So right off the bat, we have a gap. If both statements are true and a woman was created at the same time as Adam, where did she go and why did Eve need to be made? Well, don't worry, anonymous source has us covered. Gosh, that guy is so trustworthy. The Alphabet of Sirach is a Judaic text from between the 7th and 10th centuries, and here is our first mention of Lilith by name, which is handy as it also gives her backstory. As 1:27 implies, Lilith was made in a similar way to Adam, made of clay much like he was. Everything seemed fine until Adam asked for Lilith to be subservient to him. Specifically, Adam wanted Lilith to lie under him, whereas Lilith maintained the position that they should be equal, seeing as how they both came from the same place, i.e. clay. Seeing that this argument was going nowhere and that the big man upstairs was going to obviously back his baby boy, Lilith flew out of Eden. Real quick, put a pin in that whole flying detail, we're gonna get back to that later. Seeing that Lilith had left the garden, God dispatches the angels Svenvi, Svenzi, and Svingoth to bring her in, and puts the icing on the cake by saying that if Lilith does not return to the garden, 100 of her children will die every day. Stay classy, Big G. Eventually, the angels catch up to Lilith, who, on hearing of the conditions of her leaving, curses heaven and promises to be a plague on newborns as retribution for her own children dying. For the first 8 days for boys and the first 20 days for girls. She'll render diseases, illnesses, all manner of things, which are most likely to be fatal. Obviously, that kind of threat is not something to be taken lightly, so the angels agreed to a compromise with Lilith, that if a child is wearing an amulet with the angel's name on it, Lilith must leave the child alone. Lilith agrees and takes off. God then goes ahead and gives Adam a new wife in the form of Eve, and then we know the rest. Something something fruit, something something banishment. From that story, we can kind of tell that at least some of Lilith's backstory had something to do with trying to explain a current event. The Middle Ages are not exactly known for their survivability rates, for children especially, so it's not unreasonable to assume that part of Lilith's backstory was an effort to sell similar amulets as a form of medicine to newborn children. Okay, that's cool, but how do we get from first wife of Adam to mother of demons, and where did the whole sex demon thing come from? To answer that question, we need to go way back to Mesopotamian mythology and take a look at one particularly handsome piece. What's known today as the Burney relief, or the much cooler name of the Queen of the Night, is dated to between 1792 and 1750 BC. The figure is theorized to have some form of fertility connection, more so a harvesting form rather than the baby kind, possibly as a part of a ritual or ceremony. There's contention over who is actually depicted in this bust, so we'll go over the suspects later, but here's what we do know. The figure is depicted here as some form of goddess or deity of that stature. Wearing a headdress the deities were often depicted with. The figure is also depicted with both lions and birds, having owls around her and having the bird-like legs, feet, and wings. This is where we get back to that detail from earlier. As the alphabet of Sirach state that Lilith flew out of the garden. I'm no biologist, but I think having birds' wings would make that slightly easier. So here's where we get to the suspects, because yes, Lilith is one of the top three, along with the Mesopotamian goddesses of Ishtar, a goddess of many things, but most importantly the planet Venus, fertility, love, and war, and Ereshkigal, basically the queen of the Mesopotamian afterlife. Despite the fact that Lilith is a figure associated with darkness and is sometimes depicted as Lucifer's wife, plus the mother of demons, there's not a lot of evidence to support her being the figure here. For one thing, Lilith herself is from Jewish folklore, while this is a Mesopotamian piece dated to about a century before Lilith was actually written about. Not to mention that artists of Mesopotamia were extremely unlikely to create busts of demons or evil figures, and that is basically asking for trouble and having a demon at your door. What's interesting, however, is that while Lilith herself is not represented in Mesopotamian mythology, there is evidence of some influence on her character and lore. Mesopotamian mythology had these demons known as the Lili, the Lilitu, or the Lilu, and as you may be able to tell, the names are quite similar. The Lili, or the Lilutu, were the female forms of these demons that would prey on men and corrupt them with their non-specific demonic wiles. The male variations, or the Lilu on the other hand, would prey on women, most especially pregnant women and newborns. Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, it's not really that hard to find a connection between the Lili and the modern concept of the succubus, which according to lore is this sort of female sex demon that attacks men while they sleep and take their sperm to make demon babies. Not to mention the Lilu and their fascinating affinity to attack newborn babies, which, as we've already established, is a cornerstone of the Lilith mythology, and certainly a Lilith move. But this is all Mesopotamian mythology, while Lilith is Judaic. How does a Mesopotamian myth impact a Jewish one? Where even was Mesopotamia anyway? While a fixed establishment of Mesopotamian territory is spotty, it's generally agreed to sit somewhere at present-day Iraq, parts of Iran, Turkey, Syria, and Kuwait. And hey, what's that over there? My god, it's a trade route! From this geographical evidence, we can make the assumption that talk about the Lili and the Lilu made its way from Mesopotamian territory to Judaic territory and somehow influenced the already present inconsistency between the two verses of Genesis, creating a pathway to the modern idea of Lilith, as well as laying groundwork for this whole sex demon characterization. But don't quote me on this, we are in crack theory territory. And from here, we've got a lot of sources. There are the writings of the Kabbalah, a form of mysticism present in Judaism, which has a lot to say on demons and devils. One source claims that Lilith and Samael, aka the devil, cannot conceive together thanks to the Big Bang castrating Lucifer. So they need a surrogate in the form of a blind dragon to have their demon offspring known as the Lilim. But by this point in the text, the two are just married, with no mention of when that ever happened. And there's not even a solid source to draw on for this one. Everywhere I looked linked back to this one account and there was no solid book source to draw on, so I'm half tempted to ignore this source, but it links back to so much other stuff and it's practically everywhere! Look. Let's agree that I've told you about it, and let's agree to take it with a grain of salt. And from here, let's move on. And now, with everything written about the character of Lilith, let's take a quick look at her modern portrayal as a feminist icon. And let's agree now, I am talking about this from an objective perspective. I'm not here to attack anyone. I'm not here to attack anyone for their opinions, their political views, none of that. Unless they're stupid. So, Lilith. Feminist icon. This opinion seems to come from the depiction in the alphabet of Sirach, where Lilith asks to be treated as equal to Adam rather than lesser. Well, with such an equality message as that, it's no wonder Lilith is taken as a feminist icon today, just so long as you ignore the whole killing babies part. Even if you ignore the later additions to her lore as the efforts of the male agenda or whatever, look again at what she says. After leaving the garden and chased down by the winged wonders, she promises she'll bring plagues and death onto newborns. Before anyone cries about that being fair, given that her children get killed every day, how is it fair to brutally kill literal babies that in no way deserve or did anything to justify such treatment? Is that really the message of an equal rights activist? I don't get my way, so I'm going to take it out on those weaker than myself who did nothing to justify such cruelty. Was the way Lilith was treated fair? No. Was the way that Lilith acted in return fair? I'm going to still say no. Standing up for yourself and knowing your worth is important, but maybe let's not also carry on the cruelty to beget cruelty. Oh, who am I kidding? As soon as I opened my mouth, I got cancelled. Thank you for watching this week's video, and in the comments, let me know if you could meet any character from mythological and legendary sources, who would it be and why? And with that, again, thank you all for watching, and until next time, everyone, peace be with you.